So, welcome you wonderful viewers of the diaspora and the Indian subcontinent. We have our favorite geopolitical analyst Abhijit Iyer Mitra with us. We'll have a candid talk on variety of issues. Welcome Abhijit on behalf of Sanatan Shakti. We are looking forward to your amazing thoughts and words of wisdom.
Thanks for having me on.
Abhijit, start with that well, very well. You should
Yes, what's that? Yeah,
say that I love it. I like it.
Well, very well.
Well, very well. Yes.
All right. So we are going to first start with the topic of what you think on the Home Minister's speech about Sufism in Jammu and Kashmir, the extra contribution which they have made in Kashmir.
Yaar, mere ko na, I'm like literally, to quote a certain internet trend, I am numb. I'm numbed at the kind of stupidity I'm seeing. If this is the caliber of scholarship that goes into our decision making, you've got something very seriously worry about, that you don't understand Islamism, you don't understand jihadism, you don't understand the roots, nothing. Now, you know, I've heard this Sufism nonsense in other parts of India, but in Kashmir, it has a very special significance. Now, you know, the last, to be fair, all the Delhi Sultans were Orthodox, right? They used to follow either the, mostly the Hanafi, this thing. So, you know, there's a certain romanticism associated with the Sufis. But, you know, the last Sufi chap to rule India, to come visiting Delhi, was Timur Lane. And he very peacefully slaughtered 100,000 Delhiites. So I guess they're extremely peaceful people, because I guess the total of Timur's sacking of Delhi would be less than what the Hanafi sultans of Delhi did to other people surrounding Delhi. But, you know, extremely peaceful chap. I don't know if anybody's heard of Timur Lane, but he's definitely in a top contender for the Nobel Peace Prize of Antiquity, you know. So, yeah, there was that. But then, to go say this in Kashmir, where the chap who propagated Islam, who made it sort of the force in this thing, was a chap called Sheikh Hamdani, who's buried in Tajikistan. The man makes Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi look like a secularist. He, you know, he forbade Hindus from dressing like Muslims. He forbade them from repairing their temples. He forbade them from carrying out their religious ceremonies during the daytime. He forbade them from carrying out any religious ceremonies within the visual this thing of a Muslim. Okay, he was responsible. He was personally responsible for several massacres and slaughters of Muslims carried out by the king at that time, which he encouraged. And, you know, this is, and mind you, the last president, Pratibha Patil, actually went and laid a chadar at his grave in Tajikistan. Now, clearly, we haven't come very far. Because if Amit Shah is, first they said Modi is Hindu Hriday Samrat. Then they say Amit Shah is now Hindu Hriday Samrat. God save us from these Hindu Hriday Samrats. You know, I would much rather be ruled over by Tamerlane, who I know is a clear and present threat, than by Hindu Hriday Samrats, who are so completely clueless.
Here, Abhijit, you must be, I mean, you are very knowledgeable. Mohiuddin Chishti, Khwaja Mohiuddin Chishti, Ajmer Dargah, right? Our Hindu stupid, they go to his Dargah, but who was the whom we bring Muhammad Qasim to India, and Muhammad Qasim killed approximately 20 million, 2 million Indians?
Yeah, so look, none of these saints, whatever, come off. I think Makarand Paranspe has done this thing. They all go crazy about that Chap Tilak Sabji song. They don't realize the whole point of that song is an extremely violent conversion. And they take it as proof of this so-called Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb nonsense. And it's more Sufi mumbo jumbo. So, you know, this whole notion that Sufism has been peaceful, it has never been peaceful. I make it a rule. I only go to places for their architectural value. If they have no architectural value, I refuse to go there. I suggest you do the same. Now, you know, you want to go to dargahs, please go ahead. But I, for one, will never go there unless they're willing to come to my temples.
Very, very clearly, Sufism in Kashmir and contribution. It's just mind-boggling to hear from the Home Minister officially speaking from there.
Are Hindu
Amazing.
Hriday Samrat, Hindu Hriday Samrat.
And today we are seeing images of Modi ji's jappi with the Pope. What do you see of that?
वो फिर से हिंदू हृदय सम्राट. You see, it's actually 10-dimensional chess to revert all the conversion happening in the southern belt in Andhra and Tamil Nadu. This is actually 10-dimensional chess he's doing. All these stupid Hindus, they don't understand what forward thinking, master planning is going on. He's, lulling the Pope into a sense of security before he swoops down on conversion activity and all the funding coming in for all those bogus conversions happening out there. Hindu Hriday Samrat.
Andhra Pradesh specifically.
Andhra is probably now a Christian majority state.
It's an over case. Amazing.
It's a finished case, yeah.
Yep. And what you look out for the UP election strategy of the opposition and the BJP? What's going on there?
I really don't know what the hell is going on out there. See, I've heard some very interesting stuff, which is that if Rahul contests again, he could probably win if he just shut up and didn't open his mouth. The problem with Rahul is the moment he opens his mouth, he loses 10,000 votes then and there. Literally, it was the case with me also. The last time I didn't want to vote for Modi. And I was like, I'm going to cast a protest vote. I remember my polling booth. See, in my polling booth in Mylapore, there's only the option of ADMK or DMK. So whoever it's in alliance with. So I went on trying to push DMK. And every time I push DMK, I'd see Rahul Gandhi's face and I just held my nose and pressed it for the ADMK. Right. So, dekho, UP mein to Yogi is coming back. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What is the margin he's coming back by? That's the interesting thing to watch out for.
Yeah.
Because Akhilesh Yadav is just like Rahul. He's not doing anything on the ground. If you lose an election, you remember what YSR's father did. Look at YSR himself. YSR and his son today. What did they do? The moment the Congress lost the elections, or the son, the son's party, where the son was thrown in jail and all of that, what did they do? They hit the campaign trail within 6 months of their election loss, and they took 4.5 years to build it up. What is Akhilesh doing? Nothing. He's done nothing in the last 4-5 years. So he's,
suddenly sprung up.
हाँ, तो कुछ नहीं होगा.
So the coast is clear for Yogi ji as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned.
I think. But just remember, my election prediction record is quite terrible. I predicted Trump was going to come back, and look what happened.
Oh my God.
Also, like we were praying and we were doing all these things, but it is a dirty politics of the this Democrats. Otherwise, Trump would have come. You were right.
I think so. I think so. But anyway, jo hua so hua. To ab kuch nahi ho sakta.
Abhijit, I want to ask you a very interesting question. Captain Amrinder Singh's now forming his own party and announcing tie-up with the BJP. What would be the impact of that on the Punjab and in Indian politics?
So look, one is I'm going to tell you the past, and then I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen. Again, my electoral predictions come with a very big warning that I'm kind of like panauti. There should be you should have a panauti flash warning that goes off every time I give a electoral prediction. Though I did get Bengal right, by the way.
But who knows, Abhijit? I mean, your prediction might change the strategies, and then that's why they are turning opposite.
Yeah. So what happens is that you remember he started off his own party about 15-20 years back, and he got all of 845 votes. That time, nobody really knew that he was chief ministerial material. But remember, he was the Maharaja of Patiala, which was the most powerful of all the Sikh Maharajas. And for the Maharaja of Patiala to be getting 845 votes is, that's something. But after he's become chief minister, there is this thing. Remember, he represents the Jat Sikhs, and the Jat Sikhs are very upset with the kind of, they don't treat Dalit Sikhs very well. Even in the Golden Temple, you're not allowed to come in from the same entrance and all that crap and things like that. So casteism is rampant out there. So there could be a Jat Sikh backlash in favor of Captain, in which case it could significantly reduce the votes that the Congress gets, as in Amrinder Singh could take away a lot of the votes. I think that is where we have to watch out, because of the farmers' protests. Now, the thing is, the farmers, not all of Punjab is protesting, but all of Punjab feels a kind of hamdardi for those protesting, right? There are people who don't own farms, friends of mine, who are still upset for the farmers. So it's a smart thing he's doing, that he's not tying up with the BJP, which kind of gives him that aura of sort of avoiding the negative vote and playing maximum spoiler to reduce the Congress vote. I think that's what's going to happen, because especially ever since the Congress nominated a Dalit Sikh chief minister.
So post
who incidentally may be a Christian.
Yeah. So post-poll alliance is something which could be worked out. I mean,
yes, exactly.
There's also a view, Abhijit, that when the Prime Minister calls or meets someone, and then some kind of an action ensues against if they are falling into the category of anti-nationals or anti-India. So hopefully, if he's meeting Pope, what are the chances we find some anti-conversion steps taking place?
अरे कुछ नहीं होगा बॉस, कुछ नहीं होगा.
Nothing.
वो ना इन लोगों की औकात में ही नहीं है. They don't even have the data and statistics to work on this on the ground. See, who is the Pope? First of all, you can't go around meeting a religious head like this. He may be, first of all, I oppose the recognition given to the Vatican as an independent state by India. It should not be recognized. And you certainly shouldn't be hobnobbing around with religious leaders like this. Because the Vatican today is the clearest violation of the separation of church and state principle that exists. Okay, its ability to interfere and its demonstrated interference in Indian elections in the past, right? With and especially the way they treated those Kerala nuns, the rape allegations and things like that. He's validating all those things that they did to those women who got raped and then got victimized by their own church for getting raped.
And a lot of...
I don't think this was the right moment to go play huggy kissy with the Pope. But मैं क्या जानूं, मैंने तो कभी election जीता नहीं है. The only election I won was for class president and then cultural secretary back in school.
And a lot of aspersions with respect to the Biden administration giving some kind of doling out to the illegals coming from the south. I mean, so-called harassed by the Trump this thing, and the connection of Pope and Christian organizations with this illegal coming in, the humanitarian aid and siphoning off of US taxpayers' money.
So let's see. I really don't think the American connection plays out here, except we've seen that the Pope has taken, and it's not new. Traditionally, what the Christian church has always done is they've always played off the rich against the poor. Okay, so they will always first support, they will support the takeover of the elite and elite institutions like they did in Rome. And then they will go persecute the poor till you convert to Christianity. Once you've converted to Christianity, they'll champion you because there are much more poor than they are rich. So the flock will grow. Okay, when they need to, they will go completely against you. So for example, when the Protestant Reformation, so-called Reformation happened, because Martin Luther was an even more rabid anti-Semite than the Catholic Church was at that point of time. Martin Luther, when the Peasants' Revolt happened, he supported the lords against the peasants. And that is why the whole of southern Germany, which had converted to Protestantism, reconverted back to Catholicism, because they're like, this fellow's a traitor. He's gone and supported all the lords against, because remember in the olden days, today Bavaria is the richest province of Germany. But in the olden days, the North, which was the Hanseatic League and the trading communities of the North Sea, they were the rich ones. And, Bavaria and places like that were the poor areas, right? They were the agrarian poor areas, not the mercantile rich areas. So this was a very classic thing that the Christian church has played to perfection. And with Mexico and, Bhadkaoifying all these the sentiments of the poorer communities, this is something they've done for they're very finesse.
Long time. Long time. One of the clips which I saw, Abhijit, about you, we're talking on a nuclear simulation a few years back. So would like to listen about after this testing of Agni 5, the no first use policy. What are the impact of this on the nuclear simulation in terms of India,
so
Pakistan?
Nothing. Look, there's when you talk about deterrence has several levels, right? There's human deterrence, there's technological deterrence, there's leadership deterrence. So human deterrence is where your forces keep drilling, and so the other side knows that you're extremely well prepared to carry out a nuclear strike if required. Leadership deterrence is where the leadership demonstrates a kind of cold-hearted, dispassionate willingness to use nuclear weapons and publicly states they're willing to use nuclear weapons. So that's called leadership deterrence. Technological deterrence is where you keep demonstrating weapons over and over again. So that they are, like for example, if 5 out of 5 Agni 5 missiles succeed, that the enemy knows that you've reached a kind of a technology threshold, because rockets are extremely difficult to get right. There's almost something like 200,000 moving parts in there. So to carry it off flawlessly every single time, that tells the enemy that if they launch 5 rockets are almost certainly going to land on Beijing or Shanghai or what have you, right? It tells Pakistan, for example, you may be able to hit Calcutta or Madras, but then this particular missile can be launched from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which you can't hit, and it's still going to land in Lahore, Rawalpindi, Karachi, all those places. And all 5 launched will all find their target, right? So that is called technology deterrence, and that is what that reinforces.
Okay. So if we are talking about no first use policy, don't you think, Abhijit, like first use is the only use? Like, why would you like the enemy to survive for a retaliation?
Because first use is a sign of desperation. It's a sign of desperation where you feel that your enemy is superior to you and they're going to wipe you out conventionally. And therefore, you are resorting to first use in order to prevent a collapse of your forces. So I kind of support the first use policy. The problem that then happens is it's the second part of our nuclear doctrine, which calls for massive retaliation. Because remember, if Pakistan's forces are crumbling, okay, they are thinking, agar bhai, if their doctrine is massive retaliation, then even if I drop 1 bomb on them, they are going to retaliate with 100 bombs. So he has no incentive to drop just 1 bomb to say, hey, boss, this was a game, enough is enough now, you've crossed my red line, the threshold, this thing. He will not think about then using 1 weapon. His starting point itself becomes 100 weapons. I have to use 100 weapons and take out all his weapons to prevent that second strike from happening. So optimally, your nuclear policy should be no first use and remove the massive retaliation. Just put in a word like, say, assured retaliation, where, the Prime Minister is at complete liberty. Keep dropping hints that we will not, it will be tit for tat retaliation. But when the nuclear bomb is actually dropped, then you, instead of 100 for 1, you drop bloody 500 for 1.
Yeah. So suppose in a situation we reach that point, what are the chances of Pakistan using 100 or we using 10?
It's not going to come to that. That's the thing.
No.
right? Because Pakistan ultimately wants to survive, right? This is a survival tool for their leadership. And they value their lives over their ideology. They wrap it up very well in ideology. But remember, if you're too Islamist, you never break into that top 200-300 generals at the top who control the entire Fauji Foundation and all of that, right? So it's never really going to get to that point.
It's a bogey. Nuclear threat is a bogey.
It's a bogey, but it's a bogey that's best not tested too much. You know, like for example, in a horror movie, it's like, you know, if you stand in front of the mirror and say Candyman 5 times, Candyman comes and kills you. Now, it's a bogey, but do you really want to, on Amavas Ki Raat, do you really want to go and say Candyman 5 times in front of the mirror? So, for example, on Amavas Ki Raat, do you actually want to go stand under a peepal tree and dare a Vetal to come and suck your blood out?
Okay. And what about Bollywood, this Aryan Khan case? It's a big thing right now. What are your views?
Bhai, dekho, see, the thing about Bollywood is sab ganjedi.
All of them.
Okay, na? Now, the issue here is the NDPS Act. Okay, which, and you mind you, this started with the gender laws. In India, if a woman accuses you of rape, you are presumed to be guilty. You have to prove your innocence. This then was applied to the drugs cases as well. But you look historically at the record, the police have only been able to arrest consumers. They've not been able to arrest the honchos who are bringing all these drugs into India, number one. And in this case also, they've not been able to, they arrested kids on a cruise. Okay. Now, was it wrong? Was it bad? Yes. Was it wrong? No. Was it bad? Because I believe that this whole jurisprudence of guilty until proven innocent is wrong, especially in a country where you've got a third world, third-rate police force like India that is incapable of any kind of proper law enforcement and is extremely compromised, right? Because remember, the Bombay police kind of operates as a cartel with the underground. They decide who is going to get caught, who is going to get bumped off, who is not. And you know, the Bombay police is rated as the best in crime solving and things like that in India. Now, given that the base intake is the same, the methods and methodology for the entire Indian police are the same, why do you think the Bombay police has that distinction? Entirely because they operate completely in coordination with the Bombay underworld. Okay, so they keep their ratings and rankings high, and the underworld gets to do what it wants to do. To the extent you've seen police commissioners and things like that go into underworld dons' houses. There was that police commissioner who was seen going into meeting Salman Khan when there was an arrest warrant out against him when he was absconding at the house of a known don in the Mumbai underworld. It is so blatant, it is so open, it's not even funny. So please spare me this thing. So I'm not willing to. देखो, Bollywood गांजेडी है, पर मुंबई की पुलिस क्या है? वो कोई कम गांजेडी, हाँ, वो कोई कम गांजेडी नहीं है. ठीक है ना? So this is like honor amongst thieves. I don't buy this nonsense. But remember, there's another actor, Arman Kohli, who has been in jail for the last 2 months, who nobody wants to talk about, who was caught with 1.6 grams of cocaine, who has an Alzheimer's father, 90 years old, and an 86-year-old mother. He's the only caregiver, and still he's been kept in jail for the last 2 months, where the same alacrity and public sentiment hasn't gone out for him. So remember, it is not about the law in India. It is not about the sense of injustice. It's just about the person. Like, for example, there was the run over case that Salman ran over whoever or killed someone, whatever. Remember, all the people standing outside his house praying for him came from the same class of people who got run over. The oppressed love their oppression. The oppressed celebrate their oppression, which is why I have always been very proud to be a class oppressor. Because, you know, for me, the more you oppress, the more the oppressed love you.
Abhijit, I think India is the only country whereas, you know, drug peddlers and drug addicts get celebrated like this as if hero comes from war. Border से अपना hero घर पे आया है, पाकिस्तान के चाइना के सामने जीत के ऐसा welcome दिया गया.
But देखो, I mean, it's not just India. You go to America, you think they care about any of these high philosophical debates or anything like that. The heroes are people like Kim Kardashian in Bollywood who are even bigger ganjedis. अरे हमारे लोग तो बस गांजेडी हैं, उनके लोग तो क्रिस्टल मेथेडी हैं, हेरोइन एडी हैं, पता नहीं क्या क्या एडी.
All of it.
All of it. So it isn't just unique to India. I think everywhere people go crazy over these celebrities. But I think it's only in India that there's this great, almost devotional adoration of these people. As if it was Krishna on earth, as if this is the 10th incarnation of Vishnu on earth or whatever.
So what could have changed is that Delhi could be having some secrets being shared by Saudi and UAE about the Bollywood. And that's why they are totally mum since
देखो इसमें
years.
secret की कोई बात नहीं है. Because, everybody here is mixed into it. You look at the entire political circuit in Bombay. It is a sort of collaborative, like everybody talks about the Amul cooperative exercise. People don't talk about the Mumbai cooperative exercise. We were in police, underworld, politics, they're all operating. Everybody scratch my back, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. If one goes down, they all tumble in one great big circle. It doesn't matter BJP, NCP, Shiv Sena, BJP, Congress, whatever. Even you invariably find that BJP and Congress politicians will have their interests in the same underworld on. So nobody has any interest in taking down that entire tamasha out there.
Something they clearly depicted in the Rais movie too, right? Some illegal supplies going on, the politicians involved, the police is involved.
Thankfully, I can come from a position of moral superiority here because I don't watch Hindi movies and I don't watch cricket. So, I can morally say I've never put money into these jokers' pockets.
All right. You can just share what you have to say about Bangladesh Hindus. I mean, we
Yeah.
clearly learned nothing. We didn't set a secular constitution if we had to in 71. And now also, I don't know how is it going?
On one hand, I have I'm just appalled at what's happening in Bangladesh. Mind you, what is happening in Bangladesh today was what was done to Hindus when the BJP lost the election about 5-6 months back in West Bengal as well. Let's not forget that because that was also a Muslim pogrom against Hindus. Okay. Here, of course, it's different because they went and they started smashing Durga idols and things like that. And they set this up because one chap deliberately brought the Quran into Durga Puja pandal and left it out there. Now, the problem comes about why we're in a difficult position is because Sheikh Hasina is probably, by Bangladeshi standard, it's not a very high standard. She's the most pro-Hindu politician you're going to get out there, right? The sad part is my friends in Bangladesh, in the Bangladeshi elite, they've been seeing this coming. They've been warning Sheikh Hasina for almost 5-6 years that this has been coming. And she needs to do something to crack down. She didn't. This is very much a case of Sheikh Hasina being a victim of her own success. The way she's neutralized and castrated the opposition BNP, Khalida Zia's party. It was only a matter of time before it turned into a full Islamist opposition. Before that, Khalida Zia and the Jamaat-e-Islami had huge differences. They always used to get together, but they used to have differences with each other and there was a kind of check and balance on it. Here, there is none. Now, if you remember, 2-3 years back, they came after the statue of justice outside the Bangladesh Supreme Court. They said, ye nangi aurat hai, or semi-nangi aurat hai, half-naked woman with her hands tied, with her eyes tied, blindfolded, holding the scales of justice. This is against Islamic law, take it down. At that time, we had started sending out danger signals to the Bangladesh government saying, watch it, because this is ultimately, it's going to come for your father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and it's going to come for the Hindus out there. We're like, nahi, kuch nahi hoga, nothing's going to happen, let it be. Sure enough, they came for Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. They said, this is idolatry. In a Muslim country, we can't have idolatry. You can't have Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's photos up. And of course, that was crushed. The problem was that after that, it was also the Hindus' turn. They were the soft target and they're the very obvious target because nobody's going to defend them. Now, in all of this, the government of India, I understand kind of why they did what they did, but they also need to understand there's a difference between posturing and positioning. You didn't have to throw Sheikh Hasina under the bus, but you could have made a very strong statement throwing the Jamaat-e-Islami under the bus, saying that we know what they're up to. They're a terrorist organization. They've been doing this. It doesn't matter if they ever come to power. We'll never recognize them as a legitimate government of Bangladesh. They're terrorists and they're responsible for this. You could have supported Sheikh Hasina and still done it and strengthened her hand. You don't even want to do that. Okay. So, like I said, Hindu Hriday Samrat की जो सोच होती है, वो बहुत विशिष्ट होती है. I'll have to go now.
Keep on waiting. Keep on waiting. Yeah. All right, Abhijit. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We would love to have you and hear you again. And we'll do this kind of roundup of 5-6 items so that we have your views on variety of things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit.
Thanks.
Well. And for our friends in Bangladesh, Joy Ma Durga.
Jai Ma Durga.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thanks.
Thank you.
So viewers, we wrap this session now. I request you to subscribe the Sanatan Shakti channel and the initiatives we are doing. We are trying to bring diaspora viewers also on this platform. And we are looking forward to more and more shows. We'll bring more experts time in and time out. Namaste.